They tell you that love is the strongest force in the world, that it unites, heals, and inspires. But Machiavelli whispered a darker truth, one that unsettles the heart but clarifies the mind. Love may lift people for a season, but fear binds them for life. In The Prince, Machiavelli asked a question that still shakes leaders today: is it better to be loved or to be feared? With sharp clarity, he answered, if you cannot be both, then choose fear. Love is fragile, but fear is eternal. Love depends on moods, desires, and constant feeding of affection. People love when their needs are met, when they feel validated, when they benefit. But the moment love becomes inconvenient, it vanishes like mist under the morning sun. Fear, however, is primal. It lives in the spine, the heartbeat, the body's refusal to risk pain. Where love can be forgotten, fear is remembered. And it is remembered because it burns deeper than any kindness. Machiavelli saw through the illusions of poets and priests who glorified mercy over strength. He studied men as they are, not as we wish them to be. And he concluded that people betray love with ease, but they rarely forget fear. This paradox of human nature echoes through history and psychology. People claim to want gentle leaders and partners, but secretly they obey those who can hurt them more than those who help them. Affection inspires, but fear governs. Even in families and friendships, this truth hides in plain sight. The friend who is always kind is easily ignored, while the strict one commands respect. The lover who bends over backward is taken for granted, while the one who sets limits is pursued. Fear creates boundaries, and boundaries create value. Without the shadow of loss, love grows complacent, but with the reminder of consequence, even affection burns hotter and lasts longer. Modern psychology proves Machiavelli right. Attachment theory shows we fear abandonment more than we cherish presence. Loss weighs heavier than gain, and punishment lingers longer than reward. Neuroscience confirms this imbalance. The brain lights up more fiercely in response to danger and shame than to affection and praise. Love warms, but fear brands itself into memory like fire on flesh. Machiavelli did not glorify cruelty for its own sake. He was diagnosing the truth of human loyalty, a truth most leaders pretend does not exist. Fear is stable, while love is conditional. History proves his case. Caesar inspired loyalty with generosity, yet was betrayed by assassins. Augustus endured because he balanced favor with consequence. Leaders who leaned only on love fell first. The same truth applies in business and politics today. The boss who is only loved risks becoming a friend instead of a leader. The boss who is only feared risks rebellion, but the balance still tips toward control. Machiavelli understood that affection makes men bold, while fear makes them cautious. When people love you, they expect forgiveness. When they fear you, they hesitate before crossing the line. And in that hesitation lies endurance. Fear creates caution where love creates entitlement. A man loved may be betrayed, but a man feared is betrayed last. That is why Machiavelli insisted, a ruler must avoid being hated, but being feared is safe. Hatred sparks revolt, but fear without hatred builds stability. Love alone cannot do this, for it weakens without constant reward. Look around you, and you will see this truth. The teacher who smiles too much is mocked, while the strict teacher is respected. The politician who seeks love is ridiculed, while the one who demands fear is obeyed. Even in personal relationships, the paradox holds. The partner who tolerates everything fades into invisibility. The partner who sets unbreakable rules becomes unforgettable. Fear and love may coexist, but their weight is never equal. Love is soft currency, given and withdrawn at will. Fear is hard currency, circulating even when unwanted. Machiavelli's genius was in refusing to lie about this uncomfortable truth. He said openly what others knew silently. The human heart bows deeper to fear than to love. And he showed that survival, not affection, is our truest loyalty. Examine your own life and you'll feel the sting of recognition. You remember the teacher who punished you more than the one who praised you. You remember rejection more vividly than love. Pain brands, kindness fades. We are creatures who cling to pain because pain threatens survival. Fear is memory sharpened by the possibility of loss. Love is memory softened by the hope of continuity. This is why Machiavelli's insight rattles modern psychology. We like to imagine ourselves noble, driven by kindness, but evidence shows we are survivalists who worship fear more faithfully than love. Fear is the invisible contract beneath every society. Laws are not obeyed out of love for justice, but out of fear of punishment. Nations endure not through affection, but through fear of collapse. Even religion reflects this paradox. Heaven is promised as love, but hell is threatened as fear. And between the two, which drives deeper obedience, always fear. Critics accuse Machiavelli of corruption and cynicism. They said he stripped morality from politics, but he only wrote what every ruler already practiced in silence. To rule is to understand obedience, and obedience has always been won more by the whip than the rose. Fear outlasts love, because survival outlasts desire, and this truth governs every throne, every nation, every heart. That is why the fear-love paradox is not just political, but personal. It explains why respect comes more from discipline than generosity. It explains why betrayal follows comfort, but hesitates under consequence. To live by love alone is to build on sand, shifting with every tide of emotion. To live by fear alone is to build on stone, cold and sharp, but enduring. But to master both is to rule the paradox and bend human nature to your will. Machiavelli's insight was not abstract philosophy, but raw observation from the brutal politics of Renaissance Italy. He saw alliances built on love, loyalty, and shared dreams collapse within days when fear was absent to enforce them. Where affection failed to hold men, the threat of consequence welded them into obedience. History is full of rulers who rose by stirring love but fell for lacking fear. Alexander the Great was adored by his soldiers, but endless campaigns wore down devotion, and his empire fractured soon after his death. Love alone could not anchor their loyalty. Genghis Khan, however, built one of the largest empires through terror, not affection. His brutal reprisals spread faster than his armies, collapsing resistance before arrows were even fired. Fear turned his name into a wall of psychological dominance that endured beyond his life. The lesson is clear. Love inspires loyalty only while it remains pleasurable, but fear compels obedience even after desire fades. Humans are not as noble as poets imagine. They are survivalists weighing benefit and risk with ruthless clarity. And when survival is threatened, fear outweighs affection every time. Modern psychology echoes this truth. Loss aversion proves people fear losing far more than they desire gaining. The sting of punishment, rejection, or exclusion burns deeper than the warmth of praise or acceptance. Fear carves into memory where love merely lingers. This paradox shapes every corner of life. Employees may like a friendly boss, but deadlines are met because of fear of losing the job. Partners may enjoy affection, but respect is secured by boundaries and consequences, not indulgence. Even children learn more from consequences than from gifts. Machiavelli warned rulers that kindness without discipline breeds entitlement. A leader who is only loved becomes despised as weak, while one who balances generosity with fear rules longer. Love without limit. Look at politics today. Leaders who seek adoration are mocked as soft, while those who project authority through fear remain in power. Kennedy was beloved, yet his love could not protect him. Stalin, feared and hated, ruled for decades on fear's iron foundation. Corporations reveal the same law. A CEO desperate for affection is ignored, but one who sets strict expectations and enforces consequences is respected. Fear sharpens seriousness where love encourages carelessness. Boundaries create value. Consequence creates respect. This is why Machiavelli emphasized avoiding hatred, but never avoiding fear. Hatred incites rebellion, but fear without hatred stabilizes power. Love makes people bold enough to test limits. Fear makes them pause before stepping too far. Even in personal relationships, the paradox remains. The partner who bends too much becomes invisible, while the one who sets limits becomes unforgettable. Love without fear grows soft, but love edged with fear of loss creates intensity and endurance. Jealousy itself proves this. Fear of losing someone sharpens love, igniting urgency and loyalty. Without fear, affection drifts lazily until it fades. Fear gives love teeth, while love alone floats fragile and weak. Religion mastered this truth centuries ago. Believers may adore God for promises of love and paradise, but what secures obedience is fear of hell and eternal punishment. Between heaven's love and hell's fear, it is fear that drives devotion deepest. Nations too are bound less by affection than by fear. Citizens may love their homeland, but order is kept by fear of law, punishment, and collapse. Remove consequences, and love of country alone cannot prevent betrayal or chaos. Fear leaves deeper scars than love leaves memories. You may forget gifts, but you never forget betrayal. You may recall affection, but rejection sears far longer. Pain becomes survival's teacher, ensuring lessons are remembered. Machiavelli was not inventing cruelty, he was uncovering the truth rulers already practiced. The poet sings of loyalty, the priest preaches of love, but the ruler governs by what endures. And what endures is fear, the primal force guiding human obedience. Even in your life, this paradox lives. You remember the strict teacher more than the kind one. You feel heartbreak's sting more vividly than the joy of falling in love. Fear etches itself into memory while love fades into haze. Fear is the anchor of memory, the scar that prevents chaos. Love feels strong in the moment, but it is fleeting. Fear is stone cold, harsh, but unshakable when storms sweep away the sands of affection. This is why rulers, leaders, and lovers who rely only on love collapse. They mistake warmth for permanence, forgetting love is unstable by nature. Fear, though harsh, is steady. And the strongest bonds are forged when affection is balanced with consequence. The fear-love paradox is not cynicism, it is human psychology. It explains why discipline outlasts generosity, why respect grows under boundaries, and why history remembers not those who were merely loved, but those who inspired both reverence and dread. Modern psychology continues to validate what Machiavelli saw centuries ago. Studies show humans respond more reliably to punishment than reward a truth known as negative reinforcement. Love inspires occasionally, but fear of pain, rejection, or consequence makes behavior predictable. Take Stanley Milgram's infamous shock experiments. Participants obeyed commands not out of affection for the scientist, but out of fear of defiance. Fear of punishment, judgment, and consequence outweighed compassion almost every time. This reality extends beyond laboratories into daily life. Children may enjoy praise, but fear of failure drives them harder. Employees may like a kind boss, but deadlines are met because they fear losing their jobs, not because they love leadership. Fear activates the survival brain, the amygdala that does not negotiate. Love engages softer networks, quickly fading when survival feels threatened. That is why in war, disaster, or revolution, fear moves masses more powerfully than appeals to love or unity. Totalitarian regimes understood this perfectly. Nazi Germany and North Korea wrapped their rule in loyalty and devotion, but beneath the surface, fear of punishment silenced millions. It was not love that kept them quiet, it was terror. The same truth governs intimate relationships. A partner with no consequences grows careless and entitled. A partner who sets boundaries, whose absence is feared, commands more respect and is treasured longer. This is why psychologists say boundaries are an act of love, because they carry the weight of consequence. Without them, affection becomes entitlement, and entitlement breeds contempt. With them, fear sharpens love into respect and value. Even friendships prove the paradox. The friend who is always available fades into invisibility. The friend who enforces respect through firmness is remembered and valued, even in absence. Fear preserves where love alone dissolves. Leaders, too, cannot rely solely on affection. A leader who seeks only love becomes a servant to those he rules. A leader who inspires fear without breeding hatred remains obeyed and untouchable. This is why Machiavelli declared, "It is ideal to be both loved and feared, but if forced to choose, always choose fear." Love is fragile, but fear is a foundation. Love without fear is glass. Fear without love is stone. Neuroscience agrees. Painful rejections leave scars that last a lifetime, while countless acts of love blur into vague memory. Fear sears deeper because the brain records pain as a survival manual never to forget. Think of betrayal, the blade that cuts deepest. Love evaporates instantly under its weight, replaced by fear of ever trusting again. Fear can erase love in a heartbeat, but love cannot erase fear. This paradox touches everything: relationships, leadership, even faith. Believers adore promises of heaven, but obedience endures because of fear of hell. Between divine love and divine punishment, fear grips tighter. Nations too are built more on fear than affection. Citizens may love their homeland, but it is fear of punishment, collapse, or betrayal that maintains order. Remove consequences, and affection alone cannot stop chaos. Fear imprints more vividly than love. You may forget kindness, but betrayal is unforgettable. You may remember affection, but rejection haunts longer. Pain is survival's teacher. Fear is its eternal memory. Machiavelli was not glorifying cruelty. He was stripping away illusions. The poet dreams of loyalty, the priest preaches love, but the ruler must govern by what endures. And what endures is fear. Even in your own life, you know this truth. You remember the teacher who punished more than the one who praised. You recall heartbreak more sharply than the joy of falling in love. Fear brands where love only warms. Fear is the scar, the anchor, the stone that survives storms. Love feels strong in moments of comfort, but drifts like sand in the tide. Fear remains, cold but solid, long after. Warmth fades. This is why rulers, leaders, and lovers who depend only on love collapse. They mistake affection for permanence, when love is by nature unstable. Fear, harsh as it is, endures. The fear-love paradox is not cynicism but clarity. It shows why discipline outlasts generosity, why respect grows under consequence, and why history remembers not the rulers who were merely loved, but those who inspired both reverence and dread.